Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Imagineering, where we try and help you move up in life, not just on with it. My very special guest today is a very old friend of mine, Chris van Zyl Boshof. He is an IT professional working at NELESCO. Sorry, he is an IT professional working at NELESCO 318. I'm not sure what that means. It's a diamond mine in the Northern Cape area, and he's here to help me do a little bit of a discussion on IT professionals and the creative thinking potential in that field. Chris, thank you for joining me on Imagineering.
Well, hello everyone that's watching and listening, and it's my pleasure being here, being hosted by the man von West. It's good to have a chat with you. Let's see how we can help the people move on.
Right.
Not just.
Well, let's move up and not just on.
Yeah.
We've had a bit of a pre-discussion before the recording started, and we were discussing about IT professionals and creative thinking. And you were saying that you don't think really that creative thinking is all that evident in IT these days. And what is that like? What can you tell me about that?
Well, there is space for creative thinking within the IT community. So that's, I mean, if it wasn't for creative thinking, guys would not program, and you wouldn't have new software and ways of doing things. The problem comes in with the everyday, day-to-day stuff is 99% based on logic. So A leads to B, C leads to D. You cannot change that. That is how it's set. That's the global standard for it. And that is how the system is designed to work. So if
so ones and zeros, basically telling me.
Work. Exactly. There's no work around it. With the creative thinking that you implement is when you do system design for a company. For instance, if you have a small company like the one we were discussing, you own, for instance, you have X amount of people that need to work off a central database. Now, there's 3 or 4 different ways of doing this. And that's where the creative thinking comes in. But certain people are so focused or so trained to be only thinking logically that they can possibly only see one of those logical ways of doing it.
Only one solution for every problem.
Yeah, for every problem. And they're not wrong, because their solution will work. The problem comes in, will it work for what the customer desires? And that's where the big problem comes, because people can't always go and see where do we go from here? Is this what the customer needs? Because we can say technologically this is what will work. But
yeah, so like you said, there's a lot of people just see one solution to every problem, and that tends to be not the solution what you want. For example, I take this as a stupid example, but let's say you want a gaming laptop, right? And then you want something that's going to run the latest game, right, at a reasonable frame rate, that fits a budget. But that is not the same type of PC that you need to sell to someone who just wants office stuff done, just wants to load up Outlook Office stuff and just do basic office administration work on it. That is overkill. That is not the solution that you're trying to cater to that client. Now, like you said, it's like, will the more expensive gaming laptop work for that client? Absolutely. It can do those things. But it's not what's needed. It's going to be heavier. It's going to be more costly, and it's going to draw a lot more power than what's actually needed for the client. And like I say, it will work, but it's not what you want to give to the client. It's more about the value and not the price tag.
Yeah, like for me, if let's use the same scenario, right? For me, in my day-to-day work, I don't need a gaming laptop. I need something that can do numbers, just run the numbers, run the paperwork, and that's it. I still want relative speed, so I'm going to look for something with a high CPU output, and then that has a high number of memory. So for me, that will function for me in getting the day-to-day done. If I go and look at gaming, I'm also not going to go spend 30 or 40,000 rand on a laptop. To me, that's a waste. Number one, the value for the parts is not there. If something breaks on a laptop, if it's out of insurance or out of the warranty period, you might as well just buy a new one because the parts are so expensive. So, I mean, for me, that does not compute the value that I'm going to put into it. So you have to look at the value versus functionality of what you're buying.
Absolutely. And you think that now with, like, look, everything is now basically plug and play, drag and drop sort of systems, right? Is IT professional as a career still as relevant today as it was maybe 10 years ago?
I think anybody that has specialized into more of the progressive stuff like cloud computing and no, I don't think the guys in the hardware industry are doing as well, and the future does seem a little bit bleak. Yes, they will still be relevant because somebody still needs to do the nuts and bolts job of it. But like you said, because everything's so plug and play these days, you don't need someone with a degree in that specific field to do the job anymore because it's plug and play. So jobs like that, the support guys on the hardware side, the guys who are just basically looking if the settings and stuff like that is correct, those guys I think are going to fall away just because everything's so automated. Your main design guy and the guy that's going to implement it, those are probably going to be the guys, you know, if it's running, it's running. And if they do it right from the start, then there shouldn't be need for any human intervention for quite some time. So a lot of careers, I think, are going to change. But I have to also feel that a lot of IT guys currently, are changing towards it. Guys are looking at getting their ITIL 4, or they're doing cloud computing, Azure or AWS, Google Cloud. So there is options for these guys to grow. The thing is, are these guys actually doing that? Because I also know of other companies where IT guys work. These guys have qualifications. At the end of the day, I'm going to use an example. Any of the Dell support technicians, right, that do the hardware support. There's companies in this country that do that. I think Bytes is one of the companies it's called. That guy is essentially just a part technician. All he does is he goes to a shop. Oh, this machine's not working. Take out the machine, puts in a new one, clicks a couple of buttons, boom, machine is restored. On he goes with his day. That machine gets sent back, and they've got some entry-level guy somewhere in the office that takes it. Oh, okay, it's the motherboard, so we'll swap that out, ship it out with the next one.
And I think that's part of the problem now with why people are so upset with the Apple Genius Bar sort of employee type of people, is it's just swapping something for something else, and it's usually a very expensive price tag associated with it. And
yeah, nobody's going to go look and fix the problem.
Yeah,
they're just going to go, okay, well, we'll just swap the part, and there we go.
Right, because it's not worth the time, and they're probably not even qualified to do that, because it's basically it's easier and cheaper for the company, not so much for the end user, to just swap the parts. Whereas if you go to someone else who actually wants to spend the time to fix it, it's going to be more expensive than some other things, but it will be possibly cheaper to fix it rather than replace it. But then on the other side, if you fix it outside of the warranty, that's probably fine. But if you fix it within the warranty period, your warranty will likely expire. There's always a give and take sort of thing.
If you go to a certified company, a company that's got certified technicians and they're certified to work on those machines, let's go with Dell, because you get a certified Dell technician, right? That guy is certified to work on that machine, so he can swap out parts and do whatever, and that will be fine. But if you go to a company that's not certified and you take their laptop, your Dell laptop to them, and they swap out, let's say, the motherboard, for instance, instantly your warranty is void. So anything else that works that happens to that machine, you cannot claim. Now, if that being said, with changing parts and automation, is that if you go and look at a laptop from 2005, 2006, well, let's say between 2005 and 2010, I would say about 50% of those laptops, right, and that's giving it a high estimate, are still running today for certain individuals, people who don't maybe travel as much with it, or have just taken care of it more. If you buy a new laptop today, within 3 years, that thing's going to give you problems.
Force obsolescence.
The warranty. Yeah, it's just because technology is, number one, changing so fast. Okay, there's the graphics card you buy today is old 3 months from now. Because technology just changes. So the value is not there anymore. So now it's cheaper for someone like Dell to go, I'll make a laptop that maybe lasts 3 years, we guess. It's even reduced because a lot of the laptops now only come with a 1 or 2 year warranty. You have to pay extra to get an extended warranty to maybe 5 years if you're lucky. And then it's only applicable on certain models, which is your higher end model. Because in my opinion, most of the new technology is designed to last X amount of time, and that's it.
So would you say then that because of this, the way the world is, we sort of get trapped into a linear thinking mindset perhaps? And so we don't really expand our thinking because that's what it is. And I think now, right, if you grow up with that sort of system in place, you're going to start thinking like that, that it's just going to be, it's just what it is. We shouldn't just have to fix things. I don't expect my laptop to last longer than 2 years. I don't expect things to do these sort of things. I don't expect this to happen because that's the sort of system that we've grown up with. But you and I, for example, we grew up in a sort of different era, right? Where technology was still new and we had to be so careful with building tower computers and all kinds of things because any sort of mistake could totally ruin everything. Making sure that the power went from this side to this side, don't mix up your cables. Everything had to have a certain way of doing things. And it was exciting at that time because it was so, it was a challenge, right? And there weren't any books at that point in time for these things that we wanted to do. So I think because it's no longer that sort of exciting, and there's no real challenges anymore. Like even websites now, it used to be a specialty to be able to build a website. It's like even I had to learn HTML and PHP and JavaScript and all kinds of things to be able to build a website. Now, with WordPress, it's all basically drag and drop. So I think, like you said, I think with these systems that are in place, it doesn't give people the opportunity to think more freely and to say, what if, let's try and build our Frankenstein's monster computer sort of thing by using all these different parts.
I mean, that was exciting. It was, there was a time where, I mean, I remember back in 2008, the first i7 CPUs just came out, and they had a competition where guys would go, how fast can we really run this stuff? I mean, they had people that had billet blocks of aluminium made to fit over the CPUs as cooling towers, and then would literally per cup throw in liquid nitrogen to keep it cooled while they're running huge numbers on these machines to see how fast they can run it and just keep it cool enough.
I don't think I see that a lot anymore. I don't see people wanting to test the limits of things, because I think that's where innovation happens, especially is testing the limits and to see what can we do to exceed the limits. And I think in our own thinking as well, and perhaps that's why IT, the general IT technician, the role is declining now, especially hardware. It's we no longer we reach a limit where we just don't test things anymore. We don't want to. If it breaks, then we just replace it. Instead of like trying to really push the limits.
Yeah, let's replace this little resistor here with something
Yeah.
else, and then the board can carry on. But also, I think it's because the times are so fast. Like I said, you buy something today, 3 months down the line, there's something new. There's no more reason for a guy to go and push this CPU and see, oh wow, I can get 10 times the value out of this CPU. There's just no, because in 3 months' time, a new one will be there that's already 10 times more powerful.
Maybe that's also why our attention spans are also, maybe that's contributing to the attention span, or maybe our attention span is contributing to the environment. I don't really know, but I think people we don't wait for things anymore. We don't take the time to explore things anymore. And I think that damages our way of thinking, that we don't really, like, for example, as a child in my grandmother's backyard, there was this tub, right? Just a tub that they threw out. But that tub was like a rocket ship. It was a pirate ship, It was everything and anything, And our imaginations just took over and ran wild with this idea of what it could be. And I don't think I see that much more in the IT environment. That it's not just what it is, but what could it possibly be more, and what else can we do with this,
Look, I think there is a draw, basically a line that needs to be crossed in the IT industry. Like you said, we've got a decline in certain opportunities within IT. Okay, and I think if you look at it as a whole, those are all more logic-based, principles and opportunities that's falling away. Because if you walk past that line, there's a certain line that if you cross it, you come into the new cloud environment and virtualization, VR technology. I mean, what amazing stuff is that? That your mind is only limited to that which you can create in that environment. But then, do you still call that guy in IT? Is it not an entirely new, different being of things?
That's a fascinating question. Have we reached the end of what is now called information technology, IT? Is it now just something, it's like a completely new beast? Has it evolved to a point where we need to call it something else?
For me, the way I've been thinking of it for about the last 6 months, because the last 6 months I've actually been thinking, what's my next step, right? Where do I go from what I'm doing now? What is my next leap to be able to be still relevant in 2 years' time? Because there's a lot of old technologies that's being retired next year, and courses, but these are still relevant things that people want. But these institutions are retiring them because they feel they're not compliant anymore to what is out there. So in my mind, for the last 6 months, I've been thinking of an IT guy going the same way as probably a plumber or an electrician. You will have your hardware guy, and he will be qualified to do hardware. But at some point, he will no longer be valuable on the software side. You will have you will actually have a separation within the information technology system. I think the information technology will fall away, and you will have computing hardware, and you will have computing software. And I think the software part of it's just going to fly, and then the hardware guys are going to be limited to 1 in 10, if it's that much, maybe 1 in 20.
So if you really want to stay relevant, you need to specialize in something that's going to be future-proof. I think apps and
Well,
software.
I don't think there's anything future-proof per se, but you have to stay relevant. Most qualifications, the rule of law in IT is you have to renew your highest qualification every 3 years to keep it relevant.
Wow.
So how do you do that? What happens in a 3-year period that makes you go on to the next step? Because you're never going to stop studying. 10 years ago, virtual reality, or not virtual reality, but VR technology, virtual machines was new technology. Today, it's common practice. I mean, 2 years ago, well, let's say 3 years ago, we saw that virtual reality has now come onto the scene. Have you gone and Googled how many new innovative interaction technologies there are for the virtual reality world? They're still very expensive, but they're not as expensive as 10 years ago.
That's true,
or
because
5
of
years
Google
ago.
Glass and I don't know the other systems, but it's a thing, and it's possible, and we can do it. Gaming, for example, you get VR headsets for games, right? Where you can actually.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember when it was the entire system that we had to use to do VR in games, right? It was the headset, and it was the gloves, and it was everything that we had to put on, and then it was like the square, and then there was like the ring inside the square, and everything had to track your movements and motions. Now it's a headset. The speed of change is really fast.
Yeah, and that's where it is. I mean, I was speaking to a friend of ours a couple of months ago, and he was saying, well, they are so far ahead of us at this point, information technology wise, that of what they can actually do. They've got virtual boardrooms.
I love that.
Can you understand the concept of that?
But even now,
How
like
mind-blowing is that?
But something that's been making the rounds now is holographic technology. Where you can, for example, for myself, being a professional speaker, that I travel and I speak at conferences and so forth. The ability to speak at multiple conferences at the same time using holographic technology is a thing that we can do now. It's there. But as much as things change, I think the thing is, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We are still using paperwork, like cut down trees, making pulp, making paperwork for a lot of things. And I see this especially in IT, where you are on the verge of such wonderful change. Everything is still hard copy.
Exactly.
In triplicate.
I mean, yeah, we spoke about the industry that I'm serving right now. I mean, we're probably cutting down a tree a day with all the paperwork we do, and that's not even to say, the other companies around us who do exactly the same, because one governing body can't see the use of technology. All this could have been replaced by a cell phone, a little bit of programming, and a fingerprint, and you've got the same authentication and the same authority as what's standing on a piece of paper.
Probably even more so, because it's date and time stamped, and with biometric security now, especially, there's no way to just say that's not my signature. It's more secure, and it's easier and it's quicker, and everybody gets a copy of that report in seconds or near instantaneously.
Exactly.
Whereas with paperwork gets lost, it gets stolen, it gets eaten by dogs, whatever it may be. It's paperwork. I think, like you said, it's the speed. We do so much to be on the verge of new technology, but we still set the standard and get stuck in old ways of thinking by using old technology instead of adopting new ways.
Yeah, because we're still working on logic base. The logic is you've got a paper, you have to keep that paper for 7 years. Don't care where you keep it, but if we want it, you need to be able to produce it.
But with cloud computing and cloud software and storage and all those things that's available now, I mean, look, even me, I can draw up emails from 11 years ago, that I still have. That's gone nowhere in 11 years. I've bought games I've bought games online that I can still download 7 years later. It's possible to do these things on cloud service and all these things. With Google Drive, Dropbox, there's so many companies that offer cloud storage. But we don't, because like you said, we get stuck in a linear logic-based thinking instead of taking cognitive leaps and becoming more innovative and driving change.
I have to wonder, like, if I look at the world, right? Something that shocked me a little while ago. It's not so much IT related, but it was something that pulled up a couple of questions for me regarding creativity. Was they took a bunch of kids, I can't recall exactly how many of them, and they said, well, this is the problem we have. We've got polystyrene all over the world. It doesn't decay as fast as anything else. So how do we solve this problem? So it was a think tank for young minds. I think they were like between 13 and 14 or 13 and 16. They came up with a solution with X amount of chemicals added to polystyrene. They could make water filters from polystyrene. So boom, there we go. We got a solution for a lot of waste that's out there. To reuse it, to be able to make it into the substance that would be able to filter water.
I think the reason why a lot of these things just don't change is, I think, and I say this all the time, it's leadership. We don't have people that's driving change, right? Because it's not supported. And I think any company, any environment, if you see that the leaders aren't supporting change, then change doesn't happen.
But also, if you look at most leaders right now, I mean, how many leaders in the world right now are worthy of being leaders? If you define it by the traditional way of what a leader should be, how many of these global leaders right now are justified to be called a leader or measure up to the standard of what a traditional leader is? Is it a leader of people? Is it a leader of history? So if you go measure up, 90% of the guys out there, I don't think measure up. And a key factor to that is education. If you keep your people uneducated, then they will think you're a leader because they won't know any better. We see that in Africa a lot. I mean, corruption, that's essentially what corruption does. We're not going to educate our people as much. That way they won't know when we're stealing half their money or whatever the case might be. And since you don't have a leader that's focused on growing the people, he will not encourage creativity and innovation.
Coming back to IT, I was now thinking about leadership and innovation particularly. And we were discussing now about, the I don't want to say old IT technicians, but the established IT technicians in the field, they tend to get stuck in their thinking. Whereas the new guy, they come in and they've got this sort of thinking of, let's do this and let's do this and let's change this. And then the old guy's like, yeah, we've tried that once, like it doesn't work, And I think now large corporations are very much the same, because I don't see a lot of innovation happening in Microsoft or LinkedIn. I mean, not LinkedIn, but I'll get to LinkedIn now. But Microsoft and Apple especially, I don't see a lot of innovation. I see slightly better versions of the same thing. And like LinkedIn, for example, I was complaining the other day about LinkedIn becoming like Facebook. And for someone who does a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, I don't want it to be Facebook. I don't want that social sort of thing. I want it to be business related. I want to read articles that's going to help me. That's going to
Yeah,
solve
but
a problem.
it's business related.
Exactly,
It's
that's what it's
supposed
supposed to
to
be.
develop.
Now we can have like heart emojis or all kinds of sort of like things, the same as Facebook. And I think because Facebook does really well, and that's Google, right? And
Yeah.
LinkedIn is Microsoft. So Microsoft seems to be just wanting to try and copy what's working for Google rather than understanding what they are and what they're meant to be and driving that innovative change. If you don't know who you are and if you don't know what you can be or where you want to go, and copying somebody else, just it doesn't work. It's like I had a client, right? And they hired me to come and consult on the business and trying to get creative thinking happening and to see new paths to explore. And I was asking them, why are you selling ice cream when you're a tire company? You sell tires. That's your purpose, right? And it's like, well, no,
Yeah.
it's like, the ice cream store down the road does really well. They got a lot of, it's like, yes, but the ice cream, that's the store. That's
Their
what they
industry.
do. That's the industry, right? You sell tires. So I asked him, is the ice cream store actually doing well? It's like, just out of interest. It's like, no one buys ice cream. It's like, do you know why no one buys ice cream at a tire store? Because you're a tire store. You sell tires. But just
We're
because
not
you
here
think
to buy.
you're not here to buy ice cream, right? You don't take your kids shopping for tires. I don't think,
Yeah.
right? But if you're trying to copy and be what everybody else is, you're going to end up exactly where you were and exactly where everybody else is, which is also nowhere. And I think a lot of IT industries is the same. They're so busy trying to copy what everybody else does, they're never really thinking anything more. They're not just like Apple is all about thinking different, right? That's their slogan, actually, think different. But the problem with
Yeah.
thinking different does not always mean being useful. You have to think more, not just different.
Yeah. Well, like you use Apple, for instance. The problem with Apple is also that they isolate themselves from any input from the outside.
Yeah.
I saw an article recently, and the guys were going, Apple's getting some sort of feature, and the guys were creating a lot of memes that go like, but Samsung Galaxy has had that for ages.
Mm.
And the Apple's like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, man, we've had that ability for ages. It's community driven.
Mm.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what I like about Windows as a software is popular, and that's fine, and you can do a lot with it. Linux, on the other hand, is a more community driven
That's right. Yeah.
product. So much more is being done with Linux from the community side, new creative thinking regarding how that can work, than with Windows, because Windows has locked you in on this logic base that is only Windows. The same
Well, that's
with
the
Mac.
thing, right?
Mac can
And
only
the same
do
with Mac. Windows and Mac, both of those companies, Microsoft and Apple, they are so locked in what you can do that they don't think what else can you do. And I think that's a bigger problem. Way back, Apple set the trends for a lot of things, right? They were like the first to adopt new systems and all kinds of things. But that has slowed down significantly because I just don't think that they really see the value in. They've lost sight of who they are. I think they were the small company driving change because they actually knew who they were, and what they want to achieve. And even as a small company, they were second to none, right? Only outranked by Microsoft, who was the bigger company in size, right? But everybody was flocking to Apple because Apple created a new way of thinking, which was basically like ease of use, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to spend a long time on an Apple computer before you actually know what's going on. Windows, if we didn't grow up with Windows, right? Like we all did with Windows 3.1 up, when I was a child. It's sort of ingrained in us to be able to use Windows. Whereas Mac,
Yeah.
you spend 5 minutes on a Mac and you already know what's going on because it's so intuitive. Whether that's still the case, I don't know. I haven't used Mac in a while. But Linux is, because it's open, it's an open source software. Anybody can add to it. And that's what
the thing.
Like, sorry,
I
I'm just
think
gonna go and Wikipedia is exactly the same, right? Because it allowed contributions from everywhere else. It still gets monitored and things. It's now become the default dictionary, encyclopedia, not dictionary, encyclopedia.
Yeah.
It's now become the default encyclopedia.
And if you look at it, I mean, there has been cases where hackers have hacked into one of the Wikipedia things, changed the information, and people took it for fact.
Yeah.
It was just a troll. It was just a troll, but people took it for fact because Wikipedia said that.
And I think that's part of the thing is, yes, there are going to be downsides to everything that we do. But we have to focus on the positive. As long as we're doing more good than harm, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But I just don't see IT, the industry, driving change as much as it used to.
I think also a lot has to do in the IT industry is the amount of work you need to do to be creative. So you need to understand the logic to be able to change the logic.
Right.
Okay. Let's if you look at, we spoke about Windows and Mac, right? Windows and Mac, the reason why people are comfortable using with it, you grew up with it. Everything's automated. You click on one button, that thing happens. Okay. You look at Linux. Linux is different. Is a different beast on it, all on its own. There's a lot of information you have to input into Linux for it to behave a certain way. And to be able to input that information, you need to actually learn about that. But we were speaking about people's attention spans getting shorter.
Right.
I told you about the article I was watching about 8 seconds.
8 seconds, right? The human attention span.
Yeah. That's the average teen right now. So in 8 seconds, what are you going to learn about Linux to be able to use it? To be able to use it to be creative within the product. Because you can now change. Linux gives you the ability to change the product, the logic of the product, so you can have a different outcome. That's what it does. And that's how you can be creative, and that's how you can develop new things. And with Windows and Mac, they don't allow you to do that. You are not allowed to change engineering code, the logic of Windows. You're not allowed to change the logic of Mac. But people don't want to put in that effort anymore to learn how to do that change.
That's so. I remember as a child, programming on a 386 computer. The amount of code, it was staggering the amount of code that we had to put in for something to happen. And we were so excited that we actually managed to do it. To get a simple example is getting an icon to go from here to over here, and then it's like there's a lot of code happening in between, and you frequently have to test it. And we're so excited by doing that. But I think we were better forwards than a lot of other people who don't take the time to explore and value the work.
Yeah, it's. I think the individuals out there currently who are able to make that transition from going to logic to the creative thinking in the IT industry has reduced because everything is so automated. I mean, I know a lot of good guys who I know were creative when they were a lot younger. And now these guys are essentially part technicians for companies. They just go in, change the parts and go out. There's no more thinking. There's no more using that thinking, okay, this is what's wrong with the machine. No, the machine's already spit out a code that says, oh, this is code 5445, and 5445 says that the power supply is gone, or one of the power supplies is gone, or the hard drive has crashed. Okay, please insert new hard drive, click that button, restore data, boom, there you go, off he goes, an hour later he's home. There's no more that initiation of thinking. I've got this problem. Okay, I've resolved the problem, but what is my way of stopping this problem from happening again?
Yeah.
And that's where the creative work comes in. Ransomware. I love ransomware. A lot of people hate the virus. I loved it. You know why I loved it?
Why?
For the first time in 20 years, people had to change their thinking regarding how backups work.
Ah.
Because what was the standard way of doing a backup? We've got a server, we dump the data, that's it. Ransomware now says, but wait, that's not enough. Because ransomware works with, it needs a link to the internet to activate the actual encoding of your data, right? That's the way it doesn't get picked up by your antivirus. So any shared folders on your network would also get infected because the computer that's initially effective would have had access to them. So now, for us, for instance, something we came out with, we put in a 2-stage backup system. So we would have one computer that everybody would dump data to. Then we'd have a second computer that would go fetch the data from that computer. So it itself, the final computer, the second one, would not have internet access. It would not have shared folders because that's not what it was supposed to do. It will go and fetch data and keep it safe on there. So even if it does draw the virus to it, the virus doesn't get activated and the data doesn't get encoded.
And I think one of the things is now that sort of thinking is what really drives change and innovation in on a large scale. And because everything's plug and play and everything is so simple and easy to do now, and that's wonderful. It is, because it saves time, it saves money, it saves man hours or whatever. But on the other hand, you know, it doesn't really force people to change their behavior or their thinking.
Yeah. Look, let me use the same example that I've just given now, right? So we were talking about cost effectiveness. You were telling me about the laptop that eventually you ended up fixing yourself because the guys were just saying buy a new one because of one plug that was broken. The same effect happens on our solution that we developed for the ransomware, because you can go buy online cloud support backup software that say that they are ransomware protected, but it costs you a lot of money for the space that you use. Whereas a second computer with a hard drive would, in a year's time, cost you much less than having the cloud source.
Right.
I'm not saying the cloud source doesn't work. I'm just saying not everybody can afford that.
But then we go back to the laptop situation, the other laptop situation of, you know, the gaming laptop versus the office laptop, you know.
Exactly. You know, what does the customer want?
What does the customer want and need and can afford, you know? And then you have to be able to cater for that individual. It's not somebody says like, look, you can only afford 12,000 for a laptop, but that's not enough because to retrieve your emails and to do Word documents, you need a $30,000 laptop. You know, it's like no, you don't. You don't even need a $12,000 laptop for that. You know, because we only think of one thing and only one solution to every problem.
Yeah, we've like you said, we're thinking linear. We're not pushing ourselves to think outside the box. And I think also a lot of it has to do with people don't want to listen anymore. Me as an IT professional, right? I am in our company. I am the go-to person for anything IT.
Yeah.
But in my position, I have to also think what is best for our company. Because you can want this, let's say you can want A, but A would not be relevant to our company for longer than 3 months. So why are we spending the money on A when we can buy B, which would be something that's relevant for a year? So there's a miscommunication as well when it comes to those situations between a client and then the guy providing the service as well. Because the guy providing the service says, I know this is what will work. Okay, but he gets stuck in what will work as to what it actually needs. Because a server for $30,000 will fix the problem that you're having, but it will also give you other features that are available that you might not even be using in your company. So it's actually supposed to be his job to say, this is why I want you to have a 30,000 Rand server. I want you to be able to add this function and that function and that function and that function to your company. And this is what this investment in your company will be. You as a client say, well, let's say I don't have that 30,000 Rand, for instance, or I do not want to spend that 30,000. I just want this one feature. I do not care. Those other features are not relevant for my company right now. So, I mean, and that should have been the conversation.
Right. Instead of just saying, it's like, well, then I can't help you. And it's like,
yeah.
You know,
instead of saying, I'm going to give an example. The guys that supply our internet here, they're the only company that's out this way. It's one of these wireless connections, which I hate. And that's why we have this delay every now and then between us. And the guy, I was talking to the guy, I'm like, but sir, I mean, your stuff is not working. Obviously, there's a problem. I can see the problem. Your technicians at your office don't even know about half the problems until I tell them there's a problem. And they don't want to run the test that I'm telling them to run that shows the problem. For instance, if you run 50 pings to their service, it works fine. You run 200 pings to their service, then you detect the problem. So I would say, okay, guys, do the ping test for this. Yeah, no, they've run 50 pings. It tests fine. It's like, but don't run 50. Run 200. Yeah, but why? There's no need. If you run 200, you'll see the problem. I should not have been the one to tell you that.
Yeah. You
should have been the one picking that up. And then for the guy to go and say, well, we're the only ones here. Who else are you going to do it?
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, wow, have you heard of MTN, Vodacom, or Cell C? Telkom, step on out. No? I've got an industrial dish on top here. It's my property. It's not belonging to anyone else. So I can use it to get something else. The only reason why you guys have been around here so long is because nobody has challenged your way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because whoever you've told that to and said, well, who else are you going to get? The guy's just going to step back. Yeah, you're right.
It's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But because I can think a little bit for myself and I can use my creative force, like, you know what? There's about 3 cell phone towers around here. I can test Cell C, Vodacom, and MTN, see who gives me the best data rate right now and throughput on my internet speeds. And then, oh, wait, you know, MTN is giving me almost 50 megs download speed, and I have to pay $2,000 where I pay you guys $1,000 now for a 6 meg line that doesn't run 6 megs. You understand? And I've got each of we've got 6 mines around here that belongs to our organization, and they each spend like $600 to these guys for internet. So if I take all that money, I still save around about 2 or 3 grand by just using one signal here and a little bit of ingenuity. You know, it would cost us a little inset money just to connect all our mines to one network from here, but I could use my main tower to give internet to everyone.
See, that's what creative thinking is about. It's about looking at the same old problems that everybody else is looking at and then finding a new way of doing something. You know, everybody thinks creativity is art or dance or music. And yes, those are expressions of creativity. Absolutely, they are. But in of itself is not completely what creativity is about. What you've done now, what you've described, is exactly what creative thinking is. It's about what do I want to do? How do I get there? And how do I think my way through the situation? It's exactly what it's supposed to be. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of people just don't have that sort of training. Because of the way they've
think
grown
outside
up.
the box.
Well, yeah, it's like they don't even think inside the box they're already in. It's unfortunate, and a lot of corporations, they get stuck, like Apple, like Microsoft, because they only hire people who think exactly like them.
Yeah, I don't know. You've watched The Intern before?
Yes.
I'm presuming. The internship. Sorry, the internship.
Yeah, the Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn,
right.
Wilson.
Yeah, Owen Wilson, that's the guy, yeah.
Owen Wilson that plays with him. There's a piece where they're doing an interview with Google to go and work there. And the guys told him, okay, you're in a blender, the blender's on, what do you do? And he goes, what type of blender is it? The idea that he's able to take being stuck in a blender and then, like they said in the movie, and then creating it into an advantage. That is what I love about that scene. And that's what we as a people need to strive to do. You should not be able to be stuck in your logic. Yes, logic has its place because that's how stuff works. But you can change the way you think, how to use that logic to implement something.
Mm. So there's a lot of companies, I don't say a lot of companies, there are companies that actually employ these sort of checks and balances before they actually hire someone, right? They do this interview and they give you all sorts of strange questions. For example, there's a Tom Scott. I don't know if you know who Tom Scott is, but he's this British YouTuber. He does stuff about linguistics and programming, all kinds of things. One of the videos is FizzBuzz, right? It's a simple way to get a company to evaluate a programmer they're going to hire, right? By giving them a test. Even way back, Thomas Edison, you would invite someone for dinner. I don't actually know if this is true, but according to what I've read, is he would hire a potential employee for dinner, and he would see if they would put in salt in their food before they've even tasted the food, right? And if they put in salt in the food, then they were not the person he wants in his company, because they already came with preconceived notions of what it's going to taste like, or they're so stuck in patterns of behavior that's not the sort of person that he wants in the company. Someone else I heard, he walks people to their car when he says goodbye, and he checks the state of the person's car, because if a person is looking after their car, that's a person who's going to look after his company. There's all kinds of sort of things like that. I think what's that guy from Tesla now?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, right? He gives people. I think one of the questions was, if you're on the moon, right, and you walk this distance for this amount of time, and you walk this distance for this amount of time, where would you end up? And then that sort of question, all these sort of weird questions, but there's no right or wrong answer to a lot of these questions. It's how you respond to the question, because most people they tend to get stuck. It's like, oh, I don't know, I can't answer the question. Well, I was like, just try, I just want to see you thinking, really, at the end of the day. I don't care what you answer. That's not the point. What I want to see is that you're actually taking this and responding to this, not just getting stuck.
Yeah.
Simple example.
You're thinking about it first.
Yeah.
You're not actually just going, okay, well, that's what I want.
Yeah, like you can think about it, and then you can respond, but there's no right or wrong. For example, I went to Cape Town a few months ago. I think it's a few months ago. I've been a lot of places since. I asked for a sandwich. I didn't care what sort of sandwich. I didn't really care. I was hungry, right? I just needed something to eat. Yeah. And the woman asks, like, what sort of sandwich you want? It's like, I don't care, whatever. It's like, oh, no, you have to choose. It's like, okay, fine, ham and cheese. It's like the first one there. Okay, what sort of bread? It's like, I don't care what sort of bread. It's like, yeah, but say you have to choose white bread or brown bread. It's like whatever's closest, you know. It's like whatever's the closest to the chef, you know. I don't care. You just give me food. Oh
I've got the
no,
same thing.
you
I've
know. It's
got the
like
same thing.
I need to. It's like, okay, you know, just for argument's sake, or just for the sake of getting this conversation over with, make one half brown and one half white. It's like you want half brown bread and half white bread. It's like, yeah, you know, that solves the problem.
No,
I
Rainbow
get my
Nation. There we
sandwich.
go.
It's like, and it's like they couldn't deal with this idea of someone ordering something like this. You know, even if I go to the movies and I
Half
order a
and half.
slushy, you know, it's like, what flavor do you want? It's like, you know, there's 4 flavors there. Just give me a mix of them. What? Yeah,
Yeah.
just put in the
Yeah, put
mix of
strawberry and
flavors.
lime for me, please.
Yeah,
Yeah,
strawberry lime.
strawberry
You know,
and
it's
lime.
like, I want a
There we
bubblegum
go.
strawberry lime milkshake or whatever. You know, it's like, what? You know, it's just
Yeah,
challenging people. One, it's fun to see them sort of like running around like chickens with no heads. And two, it's like, I don't want to make these decisions. I wear practically the
yeah.
same thing every day. You know, it's like, I've got 20 of these shirts. I've got 5 of these jackets. You know, it's like, I've got 4 pairs of shoes that's exactly the same. I didn't want to think about this, right? I want to think what I'm going to wear today. Maybe that's why Steve Jobs always wore the turtleneck and jeans sort of look. I didn't want to think about these things. I didn't want to spend my time and waste my life thinking about these things. I'm concerned with more than that. But a lot of people, they get stuck in their pattern of thinking. And I think IT is very much the same. We've always done it this way. No one's come along and challenged us, because when we've actually asked them, who else you going to use as a threat, they actually give you an answer. You know, that must have thrown them for a loop quite a bit.
So it's, but that's the thing though. I mean, I'm the same way. Like I'll go to a guy and I'm like, I want this and this and this. Okay, sir, but what color do you want? I don't really care about the color.
I don't
just
care
want
the
the
color.
part to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt. It's not because I like the color. It's because it keeps me warm.
Yeah, you know, it's like, because other people
Protects me
have
from the
been
elements.
walking naked. Yeah, it's I don't really care. You know, it's like, I don't have a preference here. Just give me something that works.
Yeah, it's like I was buying I was looking at rifle scopes recently, and I spoke to the guy. I'm like, I'm not an expert on this field. You are the expert because you're selling it to me. This is what I want to do. You tell me what I want to use. No, but I must give him this information. Like, I don't care about that information. It's not relevant to what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, this is the scenario that I'm painting for you. Give me the solution to the scenario. And I mean, you can apply that same argument to IT, to whichever field in the world you want to. The same argument exists. You as a person, what kind of thinking would you do to be able to give me the right product for what I want?
Exactly.
And
So
that's where we stuck.
That we get stuck in that sort of thinking, right?
Yeah.
I went to a company that sells phones a few years ago. My phone got stolen out of my classroom at school when I was still teaching, and so that sort of forced me to buy a new phone. And at that time, it was the iPhone 6 and the Galaxy S6, and they were basically the same price. And I said, like, you know, I haven't used an Apple phone for a while. I don't really know much about Samsung. Can you give me some sort of rundown of what you think is better? And it's like, well, it's difficult to say which one is better. It's mostly what's better for you. You know, it's what's going to be the best for you. And he basically runs me down. It's like, and he asked me some questions, and he said, well, this and this and so forth. And it's like, this is what I'm going to use it for. And she says, well, okay, what you're going to look for is something that's going to allow you to do your job on the go, right? Without too much interference. And since you're going to need this thing and this thing and this thing. So they made the recommendation of a Samsung phone. It was the S6. 6S, something like that. Galaxy S6, yeah. And I honestly am so grateful because it's such a good phone. I still use it. You know, I've rarely kept a phone longer than a year. And I've had this now for 4 years, and it still works brilliantly because they gave me that option, right? And they said, okay, look, they're basically the same phone. They can both do the same things, right? There's not that much different. The one is more user intuitive, but the other one allows you to sort of like tie it to different things, and you don't need to. The only problem with
Customize it to yourself.
yeah, exactly. So the other one is very wonderful, right? The Apple phone is very nice, but it's a closed system, meaning you
Yeah.
can't just connect it to anything else, right? Which is, as a teacher,
little
I need to
silly.
connect to a lot of different laptops and different computers all the time to be able to get information across. And Apple just doesn't really, at that time, I don't know if it's that changed, but it didn't allow you for that sort of connectivity between anything that's not Apple related. And I said, well, look, that's basically the selling point for me, is that ability to be able to connect to different things. And so, yeah, but they gave me that option. Now, if I just went out of myself and said, the iPhone seems popular, let me buy that, I would have made a mistake because the closed system would have hampered me too much. But it's not so much what's better, it's what's better for you.
Exactly. Like if I look at cell phones, I know I'm heavy on cell phones because I drop them all the time. And especially out here, man, if we have to work on top of this installation, and I need to use the light on the cell phone to see something that I can't, or take a picture at a difficult angle. And if I drop my phone, that phone's dropping a couple
from
of
a
meters.
long height.
Yeah. So what I've just stopped buying Samsung phones because they're number one, too expensive. I don't buy Apple because it's too expensive. But then I go and look and say, like, okay, I used to love Wiley Fox phones. They were an English brand. They're still available, and they're fairly cheap. You get them for about $3,200. But then they've got about 90% of the features of the Samsung. Yes, its camera is 2 megapixels smaller than the Samsung one. You're not going to see the 2 megapixel difference with your eyes.
No.
I'm telling you. No. So for the basic stuff I needed to use it for $3,200, that is a quarter of the price of what a Samsung costs, for instance. Not even to mention what an iPhone costs. I had to switch now because it seems like Wiley Fox is going out of business.
Shame.
I've switched over to Huawei.
Huawei, yeah, they seem to be quite. They used to be these cheap phones that nobody took seriously, and look where they are now.
Yeah, I mean, now they're big business. They're a serious threat to these other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, but even so, I mean, the phone cost me like $4,200 cash, and it's a brilliant phone. It does everything I needed to do, and it's remarkably resistant to whatever stresses I put it through, which is quite a lot. But it does everything I needed to do. I don't need it to do more. I don't need my phone to give me apps based on what I do. Yes, the Play Store has that functionality to say, oh, but we saw you installed this and this and this. This is what other users of the same thing use. That's fine, but I'm not going to use them. I'm very anti to this new thing of, I call it the Google spy, right? Google and Facebook does exactly the same thing. You go and we can go on WhatsApp and we can talk about buying a new car right now. For the next 2 weeks, when you're on Facebook or when you're on Google, you will get ads on the side or in between your news feed about buying a car. Because that's what your phone or your property has detected. This is what your interest is right now. So that's what it will do. It will give you information regarding what you want, which is great for business as advertising. But for me as a person, I spoke about it once. It doesn't mean I'm serious about it. So stop giving me irrelevant information.
You know, that has never happened to me. I've heard it a lot from a lot of different people, but that has never happened to me. I don't know why. I don't know why they singled me out as like, not for you. But that has never actually happened to me. And sometimes I didn't take this seriously at first when someone told me that.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was just confirmation bias, right? Where you think about something, let's say you want to buy a red car, then the next time you go and you drive, everybody's driving red cars. That I thought that's what was happening, but it's too many people now that say the exact same thing that it leads me to think it's like this might be an actual serious threat, but they've actually admitted that, Alexa and Google, whatever, they do active or passive listening, I think it's called, where they pick up on certain keywords, and that's the thing that actually happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that is a marketing strategy from Facebook or Google, to go to companies and go, well, this is what you want to advertise your business. This is the relevant advertising we can offer your company. So, I mean, from a marketing point of view, that's brilliant from their side. But from a consumer point of view, somebody who's just using a product to communicate, it's a frustration.
Yeah. So I like the idea of tailoring ads for me. I do actually appreciate that. As someone who's quite busy a lot of times, and I don't really have time to go look for things, making a recommendation based on my browsing history or something like that, I'm actually fine with that. I'm cool with that. But when you like this thing called Wish or something that's on Facebook quite a lot.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they're advertising all kinds of bullshit, right? I need to get that from the tape. Advertising all kinds of things that's not relevant to me. It's like lingerie or vibrators or whatever it may be. It's like, I don't use this stuff. Stop it. Give me something that I might actually be interested in, and I might actually buy something, or even click on the link to go browse the store. But I like getting show recommendations based on my watch history on Netflix. You like Rick and Morty. It's like other people who've liked Rick and Morty have appreciated this show. And then it's like I got to Gravity Falls. It's like I would have on my own watched Gravity Falls, but I actually like it because people who watch Rick and Morty, they watch Gravity Falls. It's like, it's like, One Punch Man. You've watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. People who watch Neon Genesis Evangelion have watched One Punch Man. It's like One Punch Man. It's like, that's a stupid name for anything. Fine, I'll watch the first episode. And it's like, yeah, I actually like it, I appreciate ads tailored for me. But cool it with the pushing, it's like especially if something is not interesting to me, and especially if I've only watched it once. And that's unfortunately what YouTube does as well. I clicked on something called changing my tranny or something like that, right? And it was not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was a car thing, right? I thought, okay, it's like, and it's like, when actually going to show the car? It's like, and the next thing I know, right, I only watched like 2 minutes of this thing because I was expecting a car to show up at some point. Instead of this talk on transsexual behavior, it's like, okay, when we actually get into the car, it's like, I don't care about your sexual orientation or whatever like that. It's like, can you solve my problem really? And the next thing, I went out of that video. I didn't finish watching it even, right? And the next thing I know is on my suggestion feed, all these sort of transsexual videos pop up. And it's like, it's like this. Now I need to watch other things just to get rid of this. It's.
Yeah. For me though, like, I mean, we talk about the creativity in IT, but to me that is a creative innovation to be able to tailor to somebody's.
Yeah, because you're actually going to sell more, right? If we tailor to something that they're already looking for.
That's correct, but it does bring its own sort of challenges because guys who, let's say hackers or the criminal element within the community, can use the information on that element of their technology to be able to find a way to get you to activate something on your computer, and they can hack you much easier. Because, oh wait, I've been looking to buy this car. Let me click on this page. Boom, and they get to hack you.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but it's true.
pros. There's pros and cons to this.
Mm.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we've got that basically that rift between hardware and software right now, where the guys in the software industry, because that's what hacking is to me, is more a software thing, and advertising and media and social media. That's a completely different monster to the hardware monster. Because the servers are there ready. Something that was really ingenious for me, and I thought this was super, super awesome. Even though it's a criminal act, and I don't endorse any criminal activities. I went and created an algorithm that would download onto your computer. It will use 1% of your CPU to mine Bitcoin.
There was something like that I that came pre-installed in some operating system that I installed on my computer. I think it was called, what was it called now? I can't remember what it was called, but it was like, it actually used my graphics card and my CPU to mine Bitcoins, because I'm very particular what goes on my computer, especially if it's my work computer, right? I'm very, very particular what goes on to my computer. And I was looking in the task manager, and I would keep on seeing this thing is using up a lot of my resources. It's like a lot of CPU and graphic resources, and it's making my computer terribly slow. And then I started Googling it, and it's like, it's a cryptocurrency miner that's installed, that's working in the background. And it's like, my God, the guy that I asked to just install the software on my computer, right? He installed this program, and it's mining Bitcoins for him.
Money for him, yeah.
And using my electricity, my computer, and all my resources to make money for him. Fuck you. Now I'm wondering how many other people are sitting with the exact same thing that they just never noticed.
Yeah, but I mean, this was the brilliance of this guy's creativity. He limited the usage to 1%. You won't notice 1% on your computer.
No, you won't want.
Most IT guys won't notice 1%. However, that guy infects 10 million PCs with the same thing. They're generating Bitcoins for him on a large scale. They don't have to work hard to produce volume numbers.
Yeah.
Because he's got the volume infect. And the antivirus doesn't pick it up because it's not something that's running outside the behavior of what the computer's doing. And to me, that was like, wow, man, like, I understand. I'm not going to continue your program running on my computer. I'm going to end it. But the creativity, the thought that you put into creating this little piece of magic is phenomenal.
I must admit, I'm very impressed with it as well, that he thought that far ahead. And I was talking to this other guy. He's running one of the hotels here, and he says, the problem is that he would much rather employ Nigerians. And it's like, Nigerians, it's like, it's like they're quite known for running scams and things. It's like they've got a bad rap for that. And he says, yes, but you know what, right? They work so hard on these scams, right? They are wonderful, hard-working people, not honest, but really hard-working. And imagine if they put that hard-working effort and creative thinking into business. What sort of benefit would that be? And I don't think it's like, that's true. It's like, and he's working with employees who are actually quite lazy. They're doing the bare minimum, if that, right? They don't want to think. They don't want to really do much more than just waste their day and earn money for it. But these Nigerians, it's like they work really hard on these scams, and and he's admiring that. And I thought, that's true. It's actually quite true that you have to work very hard on those scams, So I thought that's a very clever
you have
way
to keep the lie alive.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I left the company I worked in before was because we had a lack of ingenuity between certain members.
Mm.
And to me, that's what makes a team. Like, if you take a team, you can have a good team, a hard-working team, and they can do A, B, and C correctly. But if you want to be innovative and stay relevant, you need a team that must be great. Guys that go and think out the box every day, come in with a new solution to an problem.
Absolutely.
And drive that innovation. And that is so rare. I'm lucky to know people in this industry now that I've met that are like that, where, well, guys, this is a new way of tackling this thing, or however the case might be. We've got a good team, or a great team, actually. And then I've got friends like yourself who thinks out of the box. We can think about our friend Peter in New Zealand.
Right.
Same caliber of person. It's just the unfortunately, the people who are in the same scenario where we are thinking outside the box, just taking it that one step further, is just becoming such a rare breed. Doesn't matter which industry you're in. If it's IT, being an electrician, we've got guys, mechanics. It's just those people are so rare. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's difficult to see how, as a world, we can grow better and do better. We managed to hold on to it thanks to a few individuals of the populace.
I think that's a good way to end this conversation. Is if you want to be an innovative company, you need to employ people who are diverse in their thinking, who wants to work together, and who wants to find solutions to all problems. And if you are in any industry, you need people who are excited and passionate about things, and you need to allow them the opportunity to grow and to be more, because it does come down to leadership. It does come down to the individual and their thinking. But there are people like myself who train people and companies on thinking better. And I think that's an important point to leave on, is that if you want to be an innovative company, you need diversity. You need to have the people who challenge the old way of thinking. And unfortunately, IT as it stands is not one of those industries that's really challenging people's thinking anymore, because things are too easy sometimes. And
there's too much automation.
And look, automation is great. It certainly can be, but that should give us more freedom to think and not to stop us from thinking.
Exactly.
Chris, thank you so much.
We need to break up the cycle.
Absolutely. You need to break up the cycle. Chris, thank you so much for this episode of Imagineering. I've had a wonderful discussion, and I think there's some really golden nuggets of truth in this. And I hope you have a great day. And if you're in an industry, if you are trying to be more and move up in life, take a course on creative thinking. Challenge your team to be more creative and more innovative. Give them the freedom to grow. And with that, I don't think Chris has a website or anything like that I can connect you with, but I'm going to link some articles in the box below. And I want to hear your thoughts. Are you in an industry that needs to challenge their thinking a bit? What is your team like? How do you perceive the industry that you're in as at the moment? Are you thinking better? Are you becoming innovative? Do you drive change? Leave a comment below and let's have a discussion. You can tell me what you think. Chris, thank you again. This has been Imagineering. See you next time.